In a now viral video, the mayor of San Juan, which is the most populous city in Puerto Rico, called on the country to, quote, save them from dying. And in her plea, she was critical of the federal government's response to Hurricane Maria. Now, of course, since Donald Trump is part of the federal government and is now implicated in such criticism, this triggered a Twitter tirade from him where he then criticized the mayor, saying the mayor of San Juan, who was very complimentary only a few days ago, has now been told by the Democrats that you must be nasty to Trump. Such poor leadership ability by the mayor of San Juan and others in Puerto Rico who are not able to get their workers to help. They want everything to be done for them when it should be a community effort. 10,000 federal workers now on island doing a fantastic job. So we'll get to my response, but first I want to show you Mayor Carmen Yulín Cruz's response.
Your reaction to the president?
Well, first of all, Mr. Stephanopoulos, there's only one goal, and it's saving lives. So any dialogue that goes on just has to be able to produce results. And all I did last week, or even this week, was ask for help.
So, of course, her response to Donald Trump was incredibly classy because, unlike him, she's actually a real leader. She exemplifies leadership. She's not a coward. She's literally helping victims herself. And after all that she did, Donald Trump really has the gall to criticize her leadership skills from his swanky golf course through Twitter. I mean, Donald Trump is a complete and utter embarrassment. And to suggest that Puerto Ricans are entitled by saying that they want everything done for them and that they're not already relying on their communities, which they are, it's just an unthinkable thing to say at a time like this. I mean, what is Donald Trump thinking? What an asshole. And as Raul Reyes of NBC News sarcastically puts it, nothing shows leadership like attacking the victims of a deadly hurricane. And he wasn't done blaming the victims just yet, because when he finally arrived in Puerto Rico, a week after Hurricane Maria hit, he made a joke that really illustrated just how big of a piece of shit he really is.
Now, I hate to tell you, Puerto Rico, but you've thrown our budget a little out of whack, because we've spent a lot of money on Puerto Rico, and that's fine. We've saved a lot of lives.
How dare you fucking Puerto Ricans get hit by a hurricane right now when I'm trying to push through more tax cuts for myself and my rich friends? I mean, do you know how inconvenient this really is and how much money we're gonna have to spend on you now? I mean, why did you choose to get hit by a hurricane, Puerto Rico? I mean, that's essentially what the implication is here. And even though he was being half serious, he's the president of the United States. You can't say shit like this. These are victims of a hurricane, and he is effectively blaming the victims and making a stupid-ass joke like this. See, and the thing about Puerto Ricans being supposedly entitled, well, they are entitled to help from the federal government when hurricanes hit, because guess what? They pay their taxes just like every other U.S. citizen. The only difference is that Puerto Ricans are technically second-class citizens, because even though they pay their taxes and contribute to the U.S. economy, well, they don't get all the benefits entitled with citizenship because they don't get to vote in presidential elections. So while they do get to have a say in presidential primaries, they do not get to vote in general elections, which is why Donald Trump probably doesn't care about them since they can't vote for him. So what does he have to lose by ignoring Puerto Rico? In his mind, nothing. But getting back to Mayor Carmen Yulín Cruz, given the severity of the situation in Puerto Rico, I think personally that her so-called criticism was actually pretty tepid. But in response, what little criticism Donald Trump received from her, he was completely triggered. But he shouldn't be triggered. Instead of criticizing Mayor Carmen Yulín Cruz, maybe he should look in the mirror, because if I recall correctly, Donald Trump, being the president of the United States, having jurisdiction over Puerto Rico, is the one that failed to do anything meaningful before Hurricane Maria hit, when he knew Hurricane Maria would hit, and he could have potentially mitigated the disaster, but he didn't set foot in Puerto Rico until a week after Maria hit, and he didn't even deploy the U.S. Navy until a week after Maria hit. So clearly, with his response, or lack thereof, it's showing that Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about Puerto Ricans. But don't worry, because apparently he loves Puerto Rico. In fact, he dedicated a golf trophy to you guys.
On behalf of all of the people of Texas, and all of the people of, if you look today and you see what's happening, how horrible it is, but we have it under really great control, Puerto Rico and the people of Florida who have really suffered over this last short period of time with the hurricanes. I want to just remember them, and we're going to dedicate this trophy to all of those people that went through so much, that we love, a part of our great state, really a part of our great nation. And I'll tell you what, I've been This from the beginning, and I have to say, our Team USA, wow, did you play well.
What a nice gesture. I mean, thank you so much, Mr. President. I'm sure Puerto Ricans are so thankful that you dedicated a stupid fucking golf trophy to them, as 44% of the island, if not more, doesn't have access to potable drinking water. Thank you so much for doing this. I mean, what a nice guy. Donald Trump is a joke. I find this insulting. I find what he did here just insulting. I could see if he did everything in his power to mitigate disaster, but I mean, he's basically ignored Puerto Rico. So this is insulting. You can take that trophy and shove it right up your asshole. But here's the thing, Donald Trump's response to Puerto Rico was inadequate because Donald Trump is not a real leader. However, the good news is that he did get called out by a real leader, Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders not only put Donald Trump in his place, but he theorized as to why Donald Trump said what he did and what might have possessed him to blame the victims in a situation like this.
First, I want to ask you about Puerto Rico. What did you make of President Trump tweeting that Puerto Ricans, quote, want everything to be done for them?
You know, speaking from his fancy golf club, playing golf with his billionaire friends, attacking the mayor of San Juan, who is struggling to bring electricity to the island, food to the island, water to the island, gas to the island, that is just, it is unspeakable. And I don't know what world Trump is living in. People in Puerto Rico are suffering one of the worst disasters in the history of that island. We have got to do everything we can to help them. We all have got to remember the people of Puerto Rico are American citizens, entitled to the same help as the people of any other community in America.
The White House denies it, but there are a lot of critics who say that race or ethnicity might be playing a factor here. What do you think?
Well, look, given the president's history on race, given the fact that he, a few months ago, told us that there were good people on both sides when neo-Nazis were marching in Charlottesville, yeah, I think we have a right to be suspect that he is treating the people of Puerto Rico in a different way than he has treated the people of Texas or Florida.
So I do think that Bernie Sanders is partially correct here in saying that we're not wrong to suspect Donald Trump might be motivated by racism, given his past history. However, I think that part of the reason why Donald Trump is only now acting and why he's been so triggered by criticism is because he doesn't want Puerto Rico and Hurricane Maria to turn into his Katrina. So that's why he's explicitly comparing it to Katrina and saying this isn't a disaster like, Hurricane Katrina. So this is nothing like that. That's what he cares about. He cares about his ego, and he doesn't want this to be his Katrina. I think that's pretty apparent. And additionally, he just doesn't care about Puerto Rico as much because, again, they don't vote for him. So why would you care as much about a group of people who, in his view, only want something from him but can't give him anything in return? So that's what, we're dealing with here, and President Donald Trump just being a complete joke. And I really hope that during his time in Puerto Rico, he's not just there for a photo op, and he actually takes the time to listen to Puerto Rico's 3.4 million residents and tries to address their concerns and do what they say he needs to do to help them, because up until this point, everything he's done has given us the indication that he doesn't give a fuck about them. And to me, I think that's unforgivable. And it really shows just how awful a person he is. I mean, to not care about them and not do anything about Hurricane Maria is one thing, but to then go and blame the victims, I mean, that's the whole new level of insanity here that is only possible with Donald Trump.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.